I'm Carla Santia for Eye on Art.
And I'm Jim Rosenthal. Carla, today we're visiting Les Campbell's Sky Meadow Studios.
And it certainly is one of the largest studios I've been in yet.
25 acres of rolling property, a pond, nature trails, just an inspirational environment for any photographer.
And that's exactly what we're here today. We're going to be featuring some of the photographers with the Pioneer Valley photographic artists, and each one of them has a different expertise in nature photography.
Here we have a hummingbird blind set up for us, some pond photography, as well as a macro setup.
Should be very fascinating, a little bit different format than what we've done in the past, and I think we ought to get started.
Let's go.
I have to thank you for having me back here. It's wonderful to be back at Sky Meadow.
Well, it's my pleasure, Carla.
I think that this is probably the most magnificent artist studio I've been in. The wilds here with the landscape and everything else that goes along with it. I know today's going to be a little bit different than what we've been accustomed to. We're going to feature some of the photographers that are involved in the Pioneer Valley photographic artists. And I'd like for you to kind of let me in on how this whole organization started.
Okay, well, it's easy to do. About 2 years ago, I stopped into Alfredo's photographic gallery in Amherst and met him, and we hit it off very well. And I started to see pictures of beautiful landscapes of people in the Pioneer Valley who I didn't know, and I thought I knew most of the people in photography. And so it gave me the idea I'd like to meet these people. It would be nice to bring these people together, and maybe collectively we could help each other, not so much from a standpoint of knowledge, but from helping and marketing our work and getting the word out there, where collectively we have a louder voice than individually.
Back about 2 years ago, Les Campbell, who's a well-known local photographer, and I got together and we talked about the concept of this gallery and also what he's doing at the Sky Meadow Gallery in Belchertown across from the Quabbin Reservoir. And we thought about a group that perhaps could be formed, not a camera club, but photographers who are really at the high end as far as quality, since there are a great number of good photographers in this area, and forming what we eventually called the Pioneer Valley Photographic Artists.
So it's worked out very well. We now have 33 members, wow. And we have some very great talent in the group, very diversified talent. And we're hoping to get the word out that we exist. We hope more and more people will buy local images, buy local photographers or painters, whatever, and do the decor in public buildings and offices. We figure we should feature the beauty we have right here in our own backyard. So.
Well, that's a wonderful mission to be on, and I certainly will support you in all of that, as I'm a great supporter of local artists.
Yes, but we have a great diversity of photographers in our group, portrait people, landscape people, and we have people who specialize in digital photography and work in digital darkrooms. So I think we represent a wonderful diversity of photographic imagery, and so anybody looking for beautiful pictures to hang on the wall is produced locally. Get in touch with us.
Well, I think that one of the purposes of this particular program is to let the public know that there is an enormous amount of talent and some very successful artists. Les, you had mentioned that there are also members in the group that do digital photography. And I know that you specialize in nature as it exists. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference of the digital photography? And I know this isn't really your area of expertise, but having worked with these people, can you give us an idea on how they fit in this organization?
Well, it's photography means writing with light, let's put it that way. And so these people are writing with light, but they're doing it through electronic systems of manipulating images digitally. And we have a member, Rich Swilowski from Ludlow, who, matter of fact, he won the top prize in popular photography contest last year, what his picture called the New York Moment. in which he took several images that he had snapped just driving through Manhattan, and then in his digital lab, probably spent 70 or 80 hours and put this piece together. It's a very valid new form. I don't intend to pursue it. My interest is nature, and I like to work in the outdoors, but some of the images that Rich has done are absolutely amazing. They're beautiful to behold, and I have his calendar up in my studio, and it's a whole new world, and we're right on the threshold.
Well, I look at the ability to manipulate images through the computer as just being another tool. There's always traditionalists that want things to stay as they are, and in fact, I love photography, silver halide, if you will, photography. But I also think that it's wise for all of us to get acquainted with some of the tools of digital photography, what you can do with a computer, how you can actually replace some of the tedious work in a darkroom with a computer, and even offer greater abilities to do things with images versus standard photography and just normal darkroom work.
It's a whole new field of photography, and we're very happy to have on our membership
sure.
one of the best.
Right.
Okay.
I have a question for
Yeah.
you. Is there anything on this piece of property that doesn't exist in terms of wildlife?
Well, we haven't seen a cougar yet. We have a lot of variety here.
Yeah.
As you look around, the beautiful thing is the variety of habitat. We have a great variety of trees and terrain, rolling hills. We have a nice brook and a nice meadow and a little frog pond. It's just, you know, it's just everything wrapped up in one nice little 25-acre plot here. It's a dream come true for
I'm
me.
sure it is. If I remember correctly, you also have a very nice little waterfall.
Yes, we do. When
How's
it's
that
running,
doing?
right now it's pretty dry. There's no
Yeah.
water at all. But it comes down off the hill, several little waterfalls, and it flows out through the meadow. The frog pond is entirely spring-fed. There's no inflow and no outflow.
Wow.
So
Pretty good.
it's different, which is probably a good thing.
Well, not ever having seen any of this before, I'm kind of anxious to get going and see how all of you are able to capture the
Yeah.
tiniest of nature in action.
Yep.
We're here at Sky Meadow with Les Campbell, who's going to show us his setup for photographing hummingbirds today. Les, great to be here on a gorgeous day.
Glad to be here. Yeah. Anyway, over the years, I've perfected some techniques for shooting hummingbirds on the wing, and I shoot right from my house out the window. But first of all, you start with a feeder, then I cap off a couple, and I'll cap this third one, and I put a flower over the stem of this, because the idea is to photograph the bird without showing the feeder. It'll look like a natural flower in the wild. In order to stop the wing beat, which is somewhere in the vicinity of 40 beats a second, we have to use power electronic flash, which gives a brief burst of light that will last, in this case, about a 20,000th of a second. And in so doing, we have to get rid of all the ambient light. And you're going to see these lights are going to be very, very close to the bird, about 8-9 inches. That's necessary because the power is very weak when we power it down, and we have to get it very close to be strong enough to get enough light on the bird to get a good exposure. So I generally begin the setup. These are small strobes that are powered down. I'll try to spread them out as far as I can, so maybe get a look at them from inside there. About as best I can do. And the bird is going to be, I'm going to be shooting through here and catch the bird. And so this is general illumination of the bird, but I want to be a little bit more artistic, so I go with a backlight. And that's a third light. It'll be positioned over here. I generally put this on the boom just so I won't get everything in the way.
Les, you also talked about feeding the birds. What are you feeding them?
That's right. This is sugar and water. I mix my own sugar and water at a rate of 1 cup of sugar to a quart of water.
Sounds like something my kids might enjoy.
Yeah, it's very easy to do. You just mix it and then bring it almost to a boil, not quite, don't boil it. And so now I have a backlight on the picture, on the bird, which is going to be right here, probably with even a little closer. And this light will be about twice as strong as the two in the front to give you a nice rim lighting. So that's the basic lighting setup. Now the last problem. You'll have a totally black background because the flash is so bright it overpowers the available light. So then I put a background in so that I will have a background.
This is the one?
That's the one. And this is actually a photographic print. I try to be as true to nature as possible. This is a photograph of the sky. And I'll get that position right behind the subject. And that's basically the setup. And now it's a matter of getting in there and waiting for the bird to come in and shoot the picture. It seems easy, but you have to shoot a lot. You have no idea what you're getting because the birds are constantly on the move. I have one other technique that I'm going to pass on to you because I've just developed this one. Sometimes it's very hard to get the bird exactly where you want them. So I've developed this technique. What I'll actually do, once I get the birds coming in here, I get rid of this feeder. I put this up here, bring it up into exactly the same position that the other feeder was. And then I take some of that same nectar that we mixed with the sugar and water, and if you have a flower that you can put the nectar inside or a few drops, and it's amazing. Once they find it, they're going to hover over here and you get your picture. So basically,
So next thing we do is go inside and see if a bird will come along.
yeah, see if he'll come along. I think I'll put the other feeder back here. Here's, I see him in the area. Here he comes. Yeah. Yeah.
So is this the female now or the male?
It's the female. She'll go around to the other side, maybe.
Oh, wow. That is so nice.
They come in pretty frequently. I'm surprised with all the activity of people moving around that they're coming in at all, but they're doing pretty good.
Oh, and she's on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
A great shot.
Yeah,
Kind of interesting.
people have no idea when they see a picture what's behind the picture and the technique. I think it'll be an eye-opener when they see what's involved in getting. When you're doing video or movie, that's one thing, but when you got to stop an instant in time with a still camera, that takes a lot of doing. And I think you'll see in the setup that it's not that simple.
Right, I'm sure
Yeah.
it takes a lot of detail, not to mention an enormous amount of patience.
Well, I don't know, if it's something you really enjoy doing.
It doesn't have anything to do with patience.
It
right?
doesn't have
'Cause it's
anything
all
to do with patience. No,
delightful moments
you
spent.
thoroughly love what you're doing. Time goes by so fast, you're just not aware of it. So.
Right.
yeah.
And then we're also going to have Mark out there photographing
Yeah.
frogs on the pond.
Mark has made a reputation as a photographer of moose, and he has several moose calendars, and he does an incredible job. And you have to give him a lot of credit because you have to stand out and be eaten alive by black flies and don't move for hours. But he's developed a very special blind that floats on the water, and he gets in, and so he can actually drift right up to frogs and turtles and all kinds of things and take their pictures at eye level. And we have a little frog pond down here, and he's going to demonstrate that technique.
Yeah.
Basically, the floating blind enables me to get anywhere I want within a swamp and photograph things at an intimate level. Sometimes I'm not even detected by the animal or bird, which makes for great photographs. Plus I can shift around during the day, get the best light, the right angles and stuff. It really makes for a lot better than if I was walking around the pond trying to get shots.
Tell me a little bit about the apparatus that you've constructed.
Well, it's not my original idea. Original idea came from fly fishermen who use floating tubes to get to their spots. But the problem with a inner tube, floating tube like they use is if I'm out in a swamp and I hear psst, I'm in trouble. Not only for my life, but for my camera equipment. So I've used a styrofoam in the shape of a donut, very similar to the fly fishermen's. And I have a baby carriage style cover, so I can drop it for nighttime photography or whatever I need, and pull it over to camouflage myself. And it basically makes me invisible to the creatures that I photograph in the swamps.
Today we're here at Les's property, and he has a pond that has the most beautifully large, green, friendly frogs I've ever seen. How are you going to approach shooting them?
Well, we're going to just jump in the tube and get out there because they're not going to care. Just like other animals in the tube, they're not going to see you, and we can get as close as we want to the tubes and use short lenses even.
I have another question. While you're out there in the tube, let's say that the water is deeper than 5 or 6 feet. How do you maneuver and control your position?
Well, I have special flippers,
Uh-huh.
frog feet flippers on my feet to propel me backwards, and I have an anchor. And I also have a contraption for hooking onto a snag, onto a branch or something to tie myself to stay. Sometimes you can just stabilize yourself on a tree branch underneath the water or a log or something. It's difficult. You're still floating when you're photographing.
Yeah.
But I've learned to adapt to it.
But his claim to fame is moose.
And then we're going to see Tiffany and Bernie, who are going to be shooting live spiders. Is that correct?
Yeah,
A particular
well,
type spider?
we call this Sky Meadow, and we have a beautiful meadow out here, and I've mowed paths so you can walk through the meadow. And right now, one of the prominent things there is the garden spiders. They're the orb web spiders that always put their signature in the web when they get through. And they see them in the morning with dew on them. And so we have a number of garden spiders out there, and they're feasting on grasshoppers and dragonflies and all kinds of things. And I'm sure Bernie and Tiffany are going to find some good subjects to show you on camera.
One of the things on a bright sunny day like this is you look for insects and animals that are taking advantage of the sunlight, and this time of year there's some spiders in the meadow here that are very brightly colored and pretty large, and they'll be out in the center of the web hunting, waiting for something to fly into the lair, and just move through down the paths and look for the webs and look for a spider that'll be in good position for you to get the camera equipment without disturbing them. And
we found one over here. So tell me a little bit about, how you're photographing this.
well, one of the things you're going to look for is you really want to think about the final image and what you're going to make of the final image. And I was particularly interested in the coloration of the spider, the black and gold, and the patterns on the spider. So I'm going to try and get to the point where I can get a fairly straightforward photograph, image of the spider that'll be manipulated later, either in the dark room or through some other process. And because the sun's pretty bright, it's midday, and the sun's pretty bright, I'll cheat a little bit and use a water bottle to mist the web, which will give it more of an impression of it being a dawn, and also set up some specular highlights, some glow through the water droplets, which can add some interest to the photograph.
The mist on the web is really glistening in the sunlight.
Yeah, that's just to glow. You have it to glow, and it sets up refraction, so you see little bits of light and colors through it, and really kind of complements the image of the spider. So really what this is portraiture. It just happens to be portraiture of a brightly colored creature that a lot of people probably wouldn't want to consider it this way, but they're really quite fascinating in the way their patterns are formed and the way they behave.
Tiffany, tell me what type of photography you most enjoy.
I really enjoy animal photography, nature, people's pets. I also enjoy shooting weddings and portraits of people and character studies.
You do that professionally as well.
Yes, I do.
What about you, Bernie?
Well, I like to do landscape and nature. I also like to do street photography, so load the small camera with black and white and go out into a crowded urban area as well.
Just the candids, or do you have any
Yeah.
particular subjects?
No, I like to do candids, and I like to search for those little odd things odd signs or juxtapositions that you find when you wander around the city or town.
Now, when you shoot in an urban landscape, do you shoot black and white or color?
I prefer to shoot black and white, just a more traditional take on street photography.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
The mission of the group is twofold. One is to bring about a greater appreciation for the art of still photography, and the second is to give opportunities for the membership to market their work through various means. You might add a third element, and that is to bring about education within our group, since there's so much to learn, so much to explore, and also to the public in general. We have a diversified portfolio of photographers that do all different types of work. We've had some of the work on exhibit here at the gallery. Some examples are Jim Rosenthal's work from the Caribbean area, and also the concept of doing some underwater photography. We've had Les Campbell's work here, which primarily centered around the quabbin, which is very popular. We've had Howard Cogger's work here, who has really captured probably the vastness and the beauty of the Pioneer Valley area, and particularly the local area, the Amherst and the surrounding towns, very, very well through various scenic and landscape photography. Rich Swietlowski's work, who has taken the concept of photography through computer digital type of manipulation, not only manipulating the images, but also painting the images with some very nice color arrangements through his photography.
That's great.
Listen,
Yeah.
just a couple things. If people wanted to get in touch with you in terms of your studio here, how can they do that? And if they want to learn more about the Pioneer Valley photographic artists, how can they do that?
Well, just get in touch with me at Sky Meadow in Belchertown. Everybody knows it now. It's on Ballou Street, but you don't have, if you just say Les Campbell, Sky Meadow, Belchertown, it'll get here.
And that's Route 9.
Yeah, that's Route 9.
Route
It's off
9.
Route 9, just past, it's right opposite Quabbin Reservoir. We're totally surrounded by state land here on all four sides, so it's a very unique 25 acres. And say people can come anytime by appointment. I won't give the number, but it's in the telephone book under Les Campbell. Just call me if you want to come down other than the days I'm open and talk about photography or the Pioneer Valley or buy images. Just call and come on down.
Okay, so
Okay.
you would be the contact also.
I would be I'm president of the group. I
Okay,
don't think of myself as president.
enough.
Just one.
Carl, I had a wonderful time visiting here today with the Pioneer Valley photographic artists.
I certainly have to agree. It was very educational for me. I've developed a true appreciation of the creative process that these photographers have developed in order to capture exactly what they want on the film. Les's technique with the hummingbirds, Mark's technique with his frogs and his little pond deer.
Tiffany and Bernie photographing the spiders. Those creatures were truly psychedelic.
Yep, I think they are truly talented people, and we are very fortunate to have them here in the Pioneer Valley.
So we look forward to having you join us next time for another episode of Eye on Art.
And we thank you very much.